video from the Tiny Menagerie. Some fish grab your attention while others just don't, unfortunately, and these fish are another that is sadly very easy to walk by in a shop in favour for their rather flashier cousins. Once referred to as the poor man's neon tetra, the black neon tetra is actually a slightly more expensive and more difficult to come by these days compared to their smaller cousins. But these charming little fish, with their strong velveted black flanks, topped with a neon bluish-green streak and that striking red portion of their eye, they are well worth considering, especially if you have a jungle style of tank. And they are certainly not merely a poor man's neon tetra, but what do these little beauties like to keep, and what kind of setup do they need? Well, black neon tetras hail from Paraguay, where they inhabit tannin-stained, murky, black water streams and shallow pools, although they have also been found in clearer water systems around flooded forests as well. This being the case, the black neon tetra is a fairly hardy little beast, able to withstand a wide range of pHs from 6 all the way up to 8, although they do prefer a warmer tank between 24 and 28 degrees. And they certainly show their best coloration when placed in a dimly lit tank. In a very brightly lit situation, over a pale substrate, they will rapidly wash out and lose much of that black coloration on the flanks that gives them their name, whereas in a darker tank they are braver and always out in the open, whereas in a brighter one again, they tend to seek shelter under plants wherever possible, and in general just keep to the more shadowy areas. Dimly lit doesn't mean you need a black water tank though for them. They will thrive in perfectly clear water, although wood and stone in the tank certainly does set them off very nicely. Black neons prefer open water, remaining where they can easily see any approaching predators. Although they're also very much middle and lower zone dwellers, they rarely swim towards the surface of the water unless they're trying to find something to eat. They will use those plants for cover or in order to hide from something if they get spooked by them, and I do tend to find that younger ones are more likely to be towards the hiding rather than being out in the open, and then as they mature they will spend more time out in the open. But for the most part they don't really explore around plants, they don't go swimming in and out of them looking for something to hunt, they more just use them as a form of overhead cover. In fact, a shoal of black neon tetras very much puts me in mind of larger tropical fish hanging out underneath a tree waiting for something to fall that they can eat, and black neons are perfectly happy to wait for food to come to them rather than going in search of it. One of the wonderful qualities about black neons is that despite their relatively large size, for a little tiny tetra at least, they come in at about 2 inches in length, that while they are perhaps a little bit bigger than the smaller tetra species, they really aren't the most demanding in terms of space. In fact, they are a decidedly lazy bunch, and even a group of 4 or 5 of them could be kept very comfortably in a 60-litre aquarium. In fact, even when you give them much larger area to roam around in, black neons tend to be quite sedentary and they will spend much of their time just facing into the current, skulking in one spot and waiting for food to pass them by. Only then will they put on a good turn of speed in order to catch it. This is a wonderful contrast compared to your hyperactive fish like zebra danios, and they give an air of studied calmness to a tank rather than frantic searching all the time. And it also means you can get a good look at them. Some fish move so fast they can be challenging to keep up with, but black neons are more observable, and I suspect they are watching you back just as much. Being a true shoaling species, black neons will need to be kept in a group with at least 5 individuals, and for the most part they will school together, with individuals just occasionally taking a break to go and hide in the plants. Both males and females look very similar in the shoal, although males do show slightly more coloration, especially around that black bar on the flank. It tends to be that little bit more solid in the males. But both of the sexes get along absolutely fine, with nothing more than the occasional bicker between them when the females are spawning in the mornings. And if you are thinking about breeding your black neons, then, much like many of the South American tetras, you will need to do some planning beforehand just to raise those fry. Black neons need a drop in pH as well as temperature in order to induce spawning, and as the fry are very light sensitive, the tank needs to be as dim as possible without actually being dark. They are an egg scattering species, although the eggs are rather sticky and so they tend to trap in plants and mosses rather than falling through like a danio egg, for example. After spawning, the parents will then need to be removed, otherwise they will happily consume their own eggs as young, as is so common with egg scattering species. Being of the lazy persuasion though, black neon tetras are very easy to keep with other species. They show no tendency at all to fin nip or bully other species, even if the fish that they're with are very small or have long, soft, flowing fins like guppies, for example. And they're also an awful lot tougher than they look, and they can live with really quite boisterous species like tigers and Odessa barbs, and in which case the tetras just up their game a little bit and make sure they don't get pushed around. They're also shrimp safe to a degree, in that they won't go hunting for shrimps, but they will certainly pick off any little shrimplet that drifts by in the current, and they have quite a large mouth for such a little fish, and so they can swallow quite a big shrimplet. But luckily, black neons don't only eat shrimps, but they are not exactly the most eager of species to feed, and if you're going to have any trouble with them at all, it's going to be trying to change their diet. When going from something new, it takes them a good couple of weeks to really settle into a new food, and to begin with, they will just take a bite of it and then spit it out, if they don't know what it is. And so, much like when you buy a new kitten or a hamster for example, it's worth asking the shop what feed they use and then getting some of that to feed to your new tetras while they transition over to whatever it is you want to feed them in the future. Even once they've gotten used to new food though, black neons are never really a greedy species, they only have a very small appetite for their size. In this way, it can make them rather easy to overfeed, and so it's worth keeping them with a good ground-feeding fish such as cories or some shrimp, just to mop up all those leftovers before they have a chance to rot. But it does also mean they are very cheap to keep, and once they get used to it, they will eat all of your usual foods from frozen brine shrimp right through to goldfish flakes. And overall, the black neon tetra is an easy fish to keep, so long as you have the right tank set up for them, a dimly lit situation, with plenty of space for swimming and some plants and some wood, the usual in a sort of jungle style. Once they are settled in, they will add a lovely air of calm and patience to your tank. They are a very charming species to keep, they've got an awful lot going for them, and they certainly should never have been known as the poor man's neon tetra. Anywho though, I hope you enjoyed this little video all about black neon tetras. Happy fish keeping everyone, and I will see you again soon. Bye bye!